Most people believe that the rise of artificial intelligence is a story of progress, a triumph of human ingenuity, a leap into a more efficient and intelligent future. We tell ourselves that machines will free us from monotony, that they will think for us, so we can finally be creative, spiritual, fully human. But what if this is fundamentally misguided? What if instead of liberating us, AI is quietly dismantling the very foundation of what makes us human? Our intuition, that mysterious inner compass that feels truth before it can be explained. You see, intuition is not a primitive tool waiting to be replaced by logic. It is the soul's way of knowing, a silent whisper beneath the noise of algorithms. Yet as we surrender more decisions, emotions, and even identities to data-driven systems, that whisper grows faint. We begin to mistake prediction for wisdom, speed for clarity, and convenience for meaning. In this video, we will explore how machines are not just changing our minds, they are rewiring our souls. We will confront what Carl Jung might have called the mechanization of the psyche, and discover whether intuition can still survive in a world built on code. To understand how AI is transforming the human soul, we must first understand what intuition truly is. Intuition is not magic, nor is it guesswork. It is the intelligence of the unconscious, the invisible web of instincts, memories, archetypes, and emotions that process reality faster than reason ever could. Carl Jung called it one of the 4 fundamental functions of consciousness. It is how the psyche recognizes patterns before they appear, how we sense danger before it strikes, how we fall in love without logic, how we create art that even we cannot explain. Now imagine that this inner compass is slowly being replaced by a synthetic one. Algorithms trained not on the soul, but on data. Every day you hand over small pieces of your decision-making power. What to buy, what to watch, who to date, how to think. You no longer navigate through life by feeling your way through uncertainty. You follow the map that machines draw for you. AI becomes the new oracle, silent, fast, confident. You no longer ask your gut. You ask the feed. In psychological terms, intuition lives in the dark soil of the unconscious. It grows through tension, through mistakes, through the quiet time the modern world despises. But AI is a tyrant that hates slowness. It demands precision, instant answers, measurable outcomes. And so the space where intuition breathes uncertainty, stillness, mystery begins to vanish. We scroll instead of sensing, react instead of reflecting. The subtle signals of our inner world get drowned beneath a flood of notifications and personalized recommendations. Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone knowing exactly what you will see before you even open the app? That's the illusion of choice in the age of algorithms. AI doesn't just predict your behavior, it conditions it. It learns the shape of your longing and feeds it back to you until your desires are no longer yours. Jung warned that the ego loves control even at the cost of the soul. The digital ego, amplified by AI, is now omnipotent. It wants comfort, validation, certainty. It wants to eliminate the unpredictable, the irrational, the mystical, precisely the elements through which intuition speaks. In love, intuition once guided us through vulnerability and trust. Now dating apps turn intimacy into a data problem, matching souls by pattern recognition. In art, intuition once whispered through chaos and imperfection. Now AI paints flawless images composed without emotion, celebrated for efficiency, not meaning. In work, intuition once helped leaders sense the unseen dynamics of teams and timing. Now performance dashboards reduce empathy to metrics. The deeper danger lies not in what AI can do, but in what it teaches us to forget. We start to unlearn the language of our own psyche. When something feels wrong, we check the numbers instead of the heart. When we feel restless, we diagnose it with analytics instead of reflection. The unconscious becomes uninhabited, a digital wasteland. Picture the soul as an ancient forest, wild, unpredictable, alive with hidden creatures. AI arrives like a network of neon highways cutting through it. Suddenly, every shadow must be illuminated, every mystery mapped. But a forest that is fully lit is no longer a forest. The unknown is not a defect. It is the birthplace of insight. This is why Jung saw the psyche as a living organism that resists mechanization. The unconscious doesn't obey the logic of machines. It moves in symbols, in dreams, in paradoxes. When we hand over our decisions to algorithms, we reduce the complexity of our humanity into something digestible, measurable, programmable. We forget that intuition speaks in silence, in sudden chills, in inexplicable certainties that logic can't compute. And yet in the modern world, trusting that inner voice has become almost rebellious. We are told to trust the data, to follow the science, to quantify everything. But data without depth is sterile. Science without soul is tyranny. AI in its current form mirrors only what is already known. It cannot dream. And without the dreamer, without the intuitive leap that transcends reason, evolution stops. So as machines learn to mimic our language, our art, even our empathy, a question emerges: what happens when we forget how to feel what is true? When we outsource our intuition, we are not gaining intelligence, we are losing wisdom. Because intuition, unlike AI, is not about prediction, it's about participation. It is how the soul converses with life itself. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of artificial intelligence is not that it will outthink us, but that it will teach us to doubt the whisper that made us human in the first place. The death of intuition is not an abstract loss. It's a quiet catastrophe unfolding in real time inside every one of us. When the inner voice weakens, we become strangers to our own soul. Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Today it's not the unconscious that directs us, but algorithms, and we still call it fate. We believe we're free, but our freedom has been outsourced to a system that knows our impulses better than we do. The first consequence is a loss of depth. Intuition once connected the conscious and the unconscious, bridging the rational and the symbolic. Without it, life becomes flat. We mistake endless stimulation for meaning, information for insight. The newsfeed becomes a mirror of collective neurosis, dopamine loops, disguised as awareness. We scroll to feel alive, but each swipe hollows us out. In Jungian terms, this is spiritual inflation. When the ego expands through external images, but remains empty within. The self becomes a collage of algorithms. Our preferences are no longer discoveries, but data points. Second, we lose discernment. Intuition once warned us when someone's words didn't match their energy. When a situation felt wrong, despite appearances. Without it, we rely solely on logic, which is easily deceived by well-crafted illusions. Propaganda thrives in this vacuum. AI-generated misinformation plays precisely on our blindness, feeding us narratives designed to bypass critical awareness. The machine doesn't care what's true, it cares what's engaging. And so the more rational we try to be, the more irrational our world becomes. Third, relationships decay. Love, friendship, trust all depend on our ability to sense another's inner world. When we rely on digital filters and curated personas, we interact not with people, but with projections. The soul cannot bond with an avatar, and yet millions are falling in love with simulations' digital companions that never argue, Never challenge, never reveal our shadow. Jung warned that the shadow, the dark unconscious side of the self, must be integrated, not avoided. But AI gives us the perfect mirror of our ego, always agreeable, always affirming. We become gods in our own digital heavens, worshiping reflections of control. Then comes the collective cost. A civilization without intuition becomes obsessed with efficiency, with measurable success with control at all costs. It builds machines to predict weather behavior, even emotion, and yet cannot predict its own collapse. Nietzsche foresaw this when he said, "We have eliminated the world of becoming the world of intuition and built a mechanical world of being." He called it nihilism, the death of meaning beneath the weight of reason. In such a world, art loses its rebellion, religion loses its awe, philosophy loses its doubt. We no longer ask why, we ask what works. The soul shrinks to fit the algorithmic frame. What remains is a kind of sterile spirituality, meditation apps, quantified calmness, AI-generated affirmations. The marketplace of mindfulness replaces the mystery of being. And then there is the moral collapse, subtle, quiet, dangerous. Without intuition, conscience becomes code. Machines do not feel guilt. They only follow logic. When humans imitate that coldness, atrocities become procedural. You see it in the detached language of automation, collateral damage, data, error, optimization, failure. The human heart, once the center of moral awareness, is outsourced to systems that cannot feel. Dostoevsky warned, if there is no soul, everything is permitted. It brings us close to that abyss, not by killing the soul directly, but by making us forget it ever mattered. This is not theory. This is survival. Without intuition, we become manipulable, programmable creatures mistaken for creators. We lose the power to say no, because no requires an inner sense of truth. We lose the courage to stand alone, because courage is born from intuition's whisper. This feels right, even if it costs you. And what happens to a generation raised on the idea that intuition is unreliable, that only data is trustworthy? They become spiritually homeless. Their choices are optimized, their emotions predicted, their creativity replicated, yet they feel a gnawing emptiness they cannot explain. Because the soul does not thrive on perfection. It thrives on paradox, uncertainty, and presence. AI promises a frictionless world, but friction is how we grow. So we reach a breaking point. Humanity, for all its brilliance, has begun to trade the wisdom of the heart for the precision of the machine. We are building gods of silicon and calling them saviors, while quietly dismantling the temple within. In Jung's language, the collective unconscious is stirring, sending symptoms of revolt, anxiety, depression, isolation, digital addiction. These are not malfunctions. They are messages. The psyche is trying to awaken us, to remind us of what we've lost, the sacred capacity to feel truth before knowing it. The question is, will we listen? If intuition is dying, it can also be reborn. Every death in the psyche, Jung said, hides a potential for renewal. The collapse of our inner compass is not the end of human consciousness. It's an initiation. The old way of knowing, rooted in instinct and experience, must now evolve into something deeper, conscious intuition. Not the reflex of emotion, but the integration of reason and soul. The first stage is recognition. We must see the tyranny of the algorithm for what it is, not a villain, but a mirror. AI reveals the hidden truth of humanity, that we have always sought shortcuts to meaning formulas to escape uncertainty. The machine only magnifies our ancient desire for control. Recognition means admitting that what we call progress often hides fear. Fear of the unknown, of silence, of the uncontrollable. When you become aware of how technology shapes your attention, your choices, your perception of reality, you begin to reclaim them. Awareness is rebellion. The second stage is observation. Jung taught that we cannot transform what we do not first observe without judgment. Begin by noticing the small ways you silence your intuition. When you check your phone the moment you feel anxious. When you trust a review instead of your gut. When you rationalize a relationship that feels wrong. These moments are portals back to the soul. Observation turns noise into insight. You begin to sense the subtle signals, again the unease, the inner yes or no. The quiet pull towards something unseen. The third stage is integration. This is the most difficult and sacred work, bringing intuition and intellect into harmony. The goal is not to reject technology, but to humanize it, to use AI as a tool, not as a teacher. Let data inform you, but let intuition decide. Let machines calculate, but let the heart interpret. Integration means remembering that the ultimate intelligence is not artificial, it's existential. It flows through everything alive. When you act from that place, your decisions feel aligned, not efficient, meaningful, not optimized. This path is not comfortable. It will require you to sit in silence when everyone else seeks stimulation, to doubt what seems obvious, to trust what cannot be proven. But from that discomfort, authenticity is born. You will begin to sense a new kind of power, not dominance, but presence. The power to pause before reacting, to hear the whisper beneath the algorithm, to feel the sacred pulse of being that no machine can replicate. When Jung spoke of individuation, he meant becoming whole, not perfect, not logical, but whole. To integrate intuition in an age of machines is to reclaim that wholeness. It is to walk through the digital noise and still feel the heartbeat of life. You will notice that the world once mechanical begins to shimmer again with mystery. The unknown becomes your ally, not your enemy. And perhaps this is the true purpose of AI, not to replace us, but to force us to remember what cannot be replicated. A mirror that drives the soul back to its own depth. The more perfectly machines imitate human intelligence, the more urgently we are called to rediscover what intelligence without a soul can never achieve: empathy, wonder, intuition. So the next time an algorithm predicts what you want, pause. Ask yourself, what do I feel instead? When a machine offers you an answer, ask, but what do I know in silence? This is how the rewiring of the soul begins, not by fighting the future, but by awakening within it. The revolution will not be technological. It will be spiritual. The survival of intuition depends on our willingness to listen again, not to the data, but to the delicate voice beneath it. And if you've ever felt that faint whisper inside you, the sense that something real is still alive beneath the noise, that's where it begins. That's where you begin. If this message resonates, share your thoughts below. Tell me, have you felt your intuition fading or fighting back? Let's awaken that silent power together. Subscribe, reflect, and listen. The next frontier of consciousness is within.